Hey everyone, Matt from Soundrolling.com. Just wanted to take you through the 633 limiter, recorder, and timecode menus. Um, so we'll just dive in through the menu and then we go down to limiter. So we have basically if the limiter is on, if it's going to be a hard kind of limit, so it's going to be quite steep in the top of the curve, as it were, of limiting, or if it's going to kind of be softer, so it will start maybe a bit earlier, but it will gradually lead you into limiting the signal. So I'd probably recommend a soft knee. That's usually the nice smooth approach. Obviously, we're trying to avoid it at all times, but if you need it, it's there. And this is your inputs limiters for your actual post fade thresholds on your inputs. So this is regardless of where they're being mixed to. You can apply a limiter to the post fade, which is after depending on where you've got your fader, that's what's going to dictate if it gets over the threshold or not. So 16 dBu, again, we have 0 in the middle, which is essentially minus 20, and so 16 is 16 above that. 20 being our absolute kind of maximum before things get it clipped because of dynamic range and all kinds of things. And so what we're going to do is, if we go on 16, then it's actually minus 4. So if we do a soft knee from that, that's probably just about enough to stop us from clipping completely. So if we go back into the menu, then we have the same for the threshold of the left and L and R. We can choose if we want to link those together as well. You may be mixing different things on the left as you are to the right, and so if one gets set off, it'll apply the limit to both of them, which is not necessarily a good thing. So again, it depends what kind of setup you have, and same with the linking for the X1 and X2. Because you can route them so many different ways, you probably don't want to link them together unless you need to, because they're stereo or something like that. Recording options, I mean, these are exactly the same as the 644. So you have all these different options, and a polywav is going to basically give you everything, which is nice, which is what I always go for. If you need an MP3 version for transcription, things like that, I mean, 128 will probably do. It's just kind of a guide. Sample rate, again, they're kind of all the standards. This one will actually go up, though, to 192, as opposed to the 664, which is only 48. So 192,000 hertz is pretty nice. So that's for kind of sound effects recording, things like that. Bit depth 24, that helps with our dynamic range and our depth of volume in terms of numbers. Difference being probably like 10 million steps in volume, which is very nice. And what's the last one? Pre-roll. So I always have pre-roll on 6 seconds, just to make sure that when they say they're going to actually clap the board, they call it, maybe they call it 6 years before they actually clap it. So I always just do it on the clap, just to make sure that everyone's basically got the clap at the start of the file. It can be very annoying waiting all that time to scroll along to find a clap. Timecode is the same as the 664. So you have all your different options depending on what they are. There's a link that I'll put in the video, I think, if I remember. Or you can find it on soundrolling.com of what all these are and where to use them. And obviously your frame rates, get that from your camera people, your post-production, especially if the difference between drop frame and non-drop frame. It's usually non-drop, but again, check with post. If they say 30 frames, make sure. You can hold off, as in delay the timecode by a certain amount of time. You may need to do that to correlate with different devices. Jam menu, this is if you plug in somewhere, you'll be able to see what's being received and what's being sent, and any differences in that. And you can set the time code as well by time of day, and user bits as well, which can be dates or things like that. It's usually months, years. And what's at the bottom? Display mode. So you can display big time code or big A time. I always just use big time code because I like seeing the massive numbers at the bottom. So there you have it. I try and crash through these as fast as possible, and maybe that's a bit too fast for you. So if you need any clarification, leave a comment below.